What is going on, snipers? Naeem Al-Obeidi here. I hope all of y'all are enjoying your day. We're going to be doing a quick market update. A lot of people are asking me whether or not this Bitcoin death cross is going to initiate a long-term bear market for Bitcoin. And I want to first show you the death cross that occurred in 2013, because you can always use history as a predictor of the patterns of the future. I don't like to say the future because I think it can give you indications of patterns, but not necessarily the actual future. But you can see here with the 50-day, the 100-day, and the 200-day moving averages pulled up on this chart in 2013. This was really where that MT Gox situation happened, where we saw this major sell-off in Bitcoin, where we had this death cross, which did eventually lead to a long-term consolidation over a very long period of time, in which we finally saw that exuberant run-up that led to the December 2017 rally for Bitcoin. So is that going to create major consolidation this time around for our current Bitcoin chart? If y'all are new here, this is going to be our trading view chart. The link is in the description. We're going to be using the 3 moving averages first and foremost. This is where the death cross is about to initiate here for Bitcoin on the 1-day. You can see here how that 50-day has already crossed below that 100-day, heading towards that 200-day. And I think a lot of people are missing opportunity in this market right now. I think there's a lot of opportunity. If y'all don't know my story, in around 2014 is really where I got serious about trading crypto, where I liquidated all of my traditional investments, my capital into crypto to really start trading this market, whereas I found that the volatility was where the opportunity was at rather than the price of Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people are overseeing that right now because there's a ton of volatility, a ton of opportunities. If y'all don't know, we had a couple of good calls ourselves here on Snipers Tube. We had this one, which was over 50%. We had this one the other day. And these are all calls over the past couple of days that we've made here on our Trade Alerts platform. So understand that there is a lot of opportunity in this market, and I'm going to talk about that. Looking at the current chart here, we're going to draw out some very key support levels here. The first one being 5,900, where we initially corrected around February, and that was after the December run-up. And then another key support level that I want y'all to watch right now is this level here of 7,200, because this is where we found our previous correction here, the most recent one. And then the resistance level that I'd like for y'all to watch for here is going to be that $11,900 range. And the reason I say 11,900 is you can see it's really the most accurate resistance level that we have right now, based on the chart and based on price levels, how they've always bounced on top at that price level. And I think a lot of people are going to be taking profits as we see these swings back and forth, but I also think that's where the opportunity lies. So I want to talk a little bit about dominance in Bitcoin and where we're headed in terms of dominance. But I think watching this chart, knowing that we're in a horizontal channel right now, we can really take advantage of the opportunities of when Bitcoin is in these lower lows. And if we insert more indicators that could help us determine entry and exit points, like the MACD, for example, looking at the moving average convergence divergence, you've got the fast line here in blue, the slow line here in orange, you've got the histograms, negative determining sellers, positive determining buyers. You can see how we're starting to see a lot of sellers come into this market comparative to what we saw with that initial sell-off. We're seeing a little bit of buyers right now, but I don't think this is enough yet to really determine that Bitcoin's going to start heading up. And then if you take a closer look at the moving lengths here, with the fast length now resting on top of that slow length once it's already converged and had that sort of bullish sign, now returning to those bearish signs, because once this crossed over, that was bullish, now it's back to bearish. And I can certainly tell you this, being at these lower price levels, you can see with the MACD, with the initial correction, it really got overstretched all the way down here to around 1478, whereas now we're only around 436 in terms of negative MACD. In my opinion, this being so bearish while prices are this low would indicate to me that we're most likely going to see further lows. Best case scenario, in my opinion, would be for us to double bottom out at 5,900, then see a pullback, hopefully a strong pullback, to then create a horizontal channel and a resistance and support level that we can now predict to then eventually take advantage of those volatile opportunities. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that right now, because when you look at the total market in general, you can see in terms of USD valuations, it's always a stronger pullback than in BTC Satoshi valuations. And when you're looking at the global charts here, you can also tell here with Bitcoin dominance here depicted in orange and altcoin dominance depicted here in silver, we're starting to see Bitcoin's overall dominance flatten out, while altcoins are now seeing a reversal. And I'm going to go ahead and actually bold the altcoins here. And if y'all, sorry, I had Litecoin pulled up. If y'all can notice here, you can see how we're starting to see this reversal and this increase in altcoin dominance. I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity in altcoins over the next couple of weeks, and I think that's where people have to focus on in terms of making their profits. Understand that this is the time to buy, but buying at the right levels is important, and until we have that known double bottom forming the confirmed reversal of Bitcoin, I think that the best opportunity is within these swings that we're taking advantage of. And that's why we're doing these trade alerts with all of these smaller coins, and we're seeing some positive movement with them. It's like, why not take advantage of these large swings? This was March 21st, right? Like, this was March 23rd. That was 2 days ago. Just because we're in a bear market doesn't mean there's no opportunity. So now let's move on to a more fundamental aspect of this market, because I think a lot of people are overlooking some very key factors of the market and where we're at and evolving right now. And one thing I'd like to talk about is the CBOE and CME futures that launched in December and how that affected the market, being the fact that now it allowed investors to bet against Bitcoin on cash settled contracts. So it wasn't actually trading Bitcoin, but allowing investors to short it, which basically means that you're betting against the price and there's potential upside in terms of profits for betting against Bitcoin going down. Now, this introduced a whole nother dynamic to the market, and we talked about this in December, but following futures are typically ETFs, which then will be followed by an options market, which would be an extremely huge feat for the cryptocurrency market for options to be introduced here. And now, if you look at this article, I'm not going to read all of this, but the CBOE is in communication with the SEC, actually talking about approving an ETF, and now they're citing concerns over two specific things: market fragmentation and investor protection, where the CME or the CBOE representative actually said back to them that the government issued currencies and gold being more fragmented than Bitcoin. That's huge. Understand the amount of optimism that's written here from credible individuals. I think this is a huge feat for Bitcoin and the crypto market in general, and I think people are overlooking this stuff. They're focused so much on the price, where number one, opportunity lies in volatility, but number two, there's all this fundamental use case and actual real life examples of Bitcoin progressing, not reversing. Another quote here from them saying here that they expect the market to grow and in the near future reach levels comparable to those of other commodity futures products. So they're expecting this to grow just as large as other commodities and traditional markets. That's something we've been talking about for such a long time here. Remember, we're at a $300 billion market cap. Gold is around $7 trillion. We have a long way to go. The original dot-com bubble was around $3 trillion, and current market valuation, that's $10 trillion. So $300 billion is petite, it's small. We have a lot of upside potential. The only issue is I think we have roadblocks along the way, like the MT Gox selling off coins, right? All of these things just need to come out of the rug so that Bitcoin can now prosper in its true form. And I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of this over the first 2 quarters of 2018, whereas the last 2 quarters, I think we'll see a lot more further optimism with a lot less negative, pessimistic posts and articles about Bitcoin and news that would just almost allow Bitcoin to finally prosper in the way that it's supposed to. So what I'm saying is that there's really good opportunities here, and I think that people need to take advantage of the opportunities instead of run away from them. I think the best opportunity, like I said right now, is taking advantage of these swings, but understand that there's still long-term potential in this market. It's just a matter of when to invest that money for that long-term potential. And then another article here talking about Monero, which was interesting. Actually, Fluffy Pony here quoted in this article is someone that I actually was introduced to several months ago at a crypto conference here in Los Angeles, California. And Fluffy Pony is an awesome guy, an awesome representative of Monero, very optimistic. It was funny. The one thing I remember was he said in the actual keynote, and this is something that I almost knew, and it was hindsight for me once he said it, but he said, if you send a Bitcoin transaction to somebody, they can now look up your wallet on the public ledger and see exactly how much money you have, and where you've sent money in the past and how much you've sent. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, Monero prevents that. And that was like the one thing that really hit me about Monero. I'm like, man, having a privacy coin is definitely something that's needed and has its own intrinsic value in its own form. And it's interesting because now there's this new ant miner that came out that had the potential to actually start mining Monero with ASIC power, which would actually make Monero vulnerable to a 51% attack. If you don't know, that's where 51% of the nodes are pretty much overtaking the other legitimate nodes, and now that allows for a lot of bad things. I think it talks about it here: false transaction histories, double spending, censoring payments, and things of that nature. So it's interesting that Fluffy Pony right now is taking the offensive here alongside other Monero developers about preventing this from happening and actually taking action to the point where they're saying that they'll do everything in their power to help the community prevent the proliferation of inducing ASICs on the Monero network by actually creating different network upgrades and stuff. And you can read more about this in the article below. But the point is, I think there's a lot of optimism in the market, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. If y'all are here on Sniper's Tube, we are doing a lot of work on the back end right now. We're setting up our other social media profiles right now, taking advantage of this slower time in the market so that once it starts to peak out again, we have a foundation already built where we can prosper as a community to get really excited about. It's to allow this community to grow organically with the most amount of values and having that real vibe of family, right? I want everyone here to feel as if they're family. So, and with that being said, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this has helped some of y'all. Snipers out.